Ladies and gentlemen, dust off those chairs. It's been a while. Pull up a seat and
Been a little bit.
welcome back to the Roundtable of Wraith. My name is Ryan, of course. I am with the man of the hour here, or the man of the tournament, I should say. The only person with the balls to play Azalea at a constructed Battle Hardened event, and not only play Azalea, top four with Azalea. That, of course, is Mr. Levi Rauch. Levi, how have you been? How are you soaking in the fame of being Captain Azalea?
It's been fun. Like, I've had a lot of people reach out and send congrats that I just haven't heard from in a while, or just different people asking questions, and just watching like the Azalea chat and stuff where people are like, oh wait, maybe we can play Azalea now. Like, just kind of all the Azalea fans getting to kind of have a resurgence of hope has just been super entertaining.
Yeah, I was watching the stream games. I have like several comments about like your stream games, not about your play, obviously, because I have no idea what the hell Azalea is like. But yeah, my favorite part about watching you play was like Brendan Patrick and the announcers just being like, it's a really good showing for Azalea. It was like the top like 8, or I think it was like not even before the top cut. It was like, it's really cool that Azalea's on stream. You know, she's not that good, but you know, it's nice to see one like on stream doing well. And then you made top 8, and it was like, it's cool that she got this far. I don't think that she's going to get any farther. And then you won. And then it was like top 4. It was like my favorite thing was just like, it's like validating for me again. Like, I feel like every time you do things, it's validating for me because I've been singing like, hey, I keep getting my ass kicked by Azalea. And then everybody on Discord's like, you just suck at playing this game. And then to see you do well, finally, like I'm on my couch like, hell yeah, I was right. I was right. So yeah, that was my favorite part about, you know, watching the run was not only seeing you have success, but also the announcers like doubting you and me just being like, nope, this is supposed to happen. This is how it goes.
Yeah, I got the chance to or at least listen to while at work, listen to the commentary back on my games, and it was entertaining just to watch them go like, it's Azalea, she's gonna do Azalea things and die, and wait a minute, he's not losing. What's going on here?
Exactly. It was so funny.
Yeah.
All right. So for those of you guys that are tuning in for this video, I just want to preface this by saying this is not a deck tech. Levi's not going to be going over his deck. That is going to be on the Spark of Genius website or YouTube page. I don't know why I said website. YouTube page. I don't know when that's going to be releasing, sometime in the near future. So take a look at them. Yeah. They do, great stuff, especially they're all about the deck tech. So this is more about like a why. This is going to be a tournament report-ish, but this is an opportunity for me to kind of ask questions and pick Levi's brain a little bit and kind of get behind what he thinks about Azalea, not only for this tournament specifically and how he played it, but also going forward. We do have, I guess, a small tournament coming up in the near future that, you know, you probably with, not being, you know, hyperbolic, you probably changed the landscape of that tournament in a way. So that's pretty cool. So before we get to Worlds and all that stuff in the future, I'm going to start with this tournament. Why were you a madman? Why Azalea?
Well, so it was a compound of like 3 reasons. So the first one was after the first Battle Hardened Columbus. I made top 4 with Icelander. I was not happy with that result. I know it sounds dumb, but I was disappointed. I thought I could win it all, and just didn't quite go my way. And then I'm like, okay, I'm gonna go back to the drawing board, practice the Icelander, put in tons of hours going into the Nats. I went 5-2 at Nats day 1, and I said I don't want to draft. So then I dropped 5-2, and then I went to play the Calling. I went 9-1, and then I lost 2 consecutive win-ins, and ended up getting 9th. And admittedly, I was pretty bummed. Not gonna
I
It,
mean, sure.
yeah, it was just frustrating because the a 9-3 where you lost your last two rounds gets you top 8 in pretty much every 12-round event, except when there's 462 players.
Yeah.
So it was just kind of frustrating. I was like, I had spent so much time playing Icelander. I put in from Icelander release to Nats. I think I put in at least 450 games of Icelander with like messaging people, theory crafting, videos, like watching tons of content, making content. Like I went over like VOD reviewed with people. Like I did everything Icelander constantly, and then just to fall one placement short, I was like, all right, well, I want to play a fun deck again. I'm going to play Azalea. So I set Icelander to the side. I started playing Azalea. I was planning on going to Columbus, but I wasn't sure what I wanted to play. The pick was Icelander originally, but I had just been playing Azalea for fun on Talishar for like 2 weeks, and the event's getting closer and closer, and I'm going, I'm looking at my win rates on Talishar, and they're not that bad with Azalea. Like, they obviously lower than Icelanders, but they were still pretty good. And I was like, wow, this is feeling good. And then I was looking at my matchups, and I was beating Fi, I was beating Icelander, I was beating all the fringe decks. The only things I was really struggling into were Oldham and Dromai, which obviously there's some skill gap stuff there, where if I play against a fringe deck on Talishar versus Columbus, it's going to be a lot harder in Columbus, but I was pretty comfortable in all the other matchups, and I was happy with my win rates. I was like, this might not be the worst pick. Then Dallas rolls around, and I look at the top 8 there, and there's one Oldham, and then a Dory and 6 aggro decks. I'm like, if I made top 8 with that Azalea at that event, I think I could have won that event. So I was like, okay, if I get a bit lucky and there's a bunch of aggro at the top tables, this could work. I'm pretty happy with it. The other thing, as far as like why I didn't play Icelander, was the Fis have been getting more and more confident. They've been putting in energy potions, and they've practiced the matchup. And it's like, I hadn't been practicing in Defies, the newer lists, and I'm like, I don't know that I'm actually comfortable in Defy on Icelander. I think everything else I'm good, but I've heard Fis go, yeah, now we're like 60-70% into Icelander. I'm like, that's a scary prospect when I haven't practiced this deck at all since you guys have been changing your lists. So I'm like, if I think that I can beat Icelander and Fi, which I think are going to be the two most common decks,
Sure.
Azalea seems reasonable.
So like the more you're saying, the more that Fi overtakes for Icelander, the better your matchup as Azalea into Fi becomes.
No, my matchup as Azalea into Fi has always been pretty good.
Sure.
Because he doesn't like blocking. But I'm saying that if Fi is going to be the most common deck in the room, and they're comfortable into Icelander, I'll take a deck they're not comfortable against, and hope to hit the Fis.
Sure.
So that was kind of consideration. And then also after Dallas, I was talking with different people, and you had people. There was one person in particular. I mean, if he watches the video, he'll know who he is. He was going on about, Azalea is not playable. I'm looking at the Living Legend points. She has 0 Living Legend points. Therefore, the deck cannot win anything. And I'm like, well, that's not exactly how that works. And I don't think she's that bad. There aren't many good players on Azalea. Most good players decide to play a different deck.
Sure.
I think if we had a bunch more good players playing Azalea, she wouldn't be at the top, but she'd be holding her own.
Do you think she'd have Living Legend points if, let's say, the best teams like dedicated to Azalea? Does she?
Oh, 100%.
You think so?
Oh yeah. No, like the reason she doesn't have Living Legend points is because, well, actually, there's a combination of reasons. One, there's no really good players constantly playing Azalea.
Yeah.
We don't have a lot of competitive resources for Azalea. So you look at heroes like Levi and Bolton. You've got Mansant making good competitive content for Levi. So people who want to play Levi have resources on how to play her well.
Like Josh.
You've got Bolton. You've got Josh Lau.
Yeah.
It's like, if you want to play Bolton well, he will show you how to play it well.
Josh got what?
You want to
12?
play Azalea well. Yeah, he did really well.
Yeah, he was 6. I believe he was X2.
Yeah, And if you want to play Azalea well, you have
You.
my probably last Azalea video from like 6 months ago. As far as actually, like, there's Azalea content, but there's not competitive Azalea content.
Sure.
And that really hurts people getting into the hero. And that I took that a little bit personally, because I know I was one that people looked to for Azalea content, and I kind of let them down. But I was playing another deck, and it's not entirely my job. But I was just kind of disappointed that it wasn't there. So that's kind of held Azalea back. But yeah, so that conversation, I was like, well, all right, I'll pick it back up. I'll play it, and we'll see how it goes. Yeah, so that was kind of what led to that decision. I started talking with people, and I was like, oh, I might play Azalea there. Then I kept getting closer. I was like, I've said I might play it to too many people to not play it now. So I guess I'm playing it. And leading into the event, I was like, uh-oh, maybe this isn't such a good idea. I was sitting pretty high on the ELO leaderboards from Icelander, and I was like, oh, I'm going to take a big hit if I do poorly at this event. Like, I guess it doesn't mean everything, but it was still going to be kind of disappointing if my ELO just tanked off going like 2-7 or 2-6 or something.
Yeah, so going into the event, I know you obviously, I mean, if you watch the matchups and stuff, I know you said Dromai Oldham, awful matchups. I've talked to you quite a bit about those matchups, particularly. Yep. I know when you drew Dromai, I know Darkodius, I don't know his actual name, I forgot his name, but
I think it was Noah.
Yeah, Noah, that's right. When you drew Noah, you were like, yeah, this is going to be, we'll see what happens. Let's high roll. Like I was following you along in the Discord chat.
Yeah.
So those matchups aside, like Azalea on hits and things, like matchup specifically, what were the matchups you were absolutely hoping for? I know it's weird to say, I really want to see Phi, but like I know you really want to see Phi. But what about like the fringe matchups, like, you know, Briar, Viserai, like the matchups that might be there, but not necessarily like in full force? Like you like, I think you said you like your matchup into Icelander, you love the matchup into Phi, but like what about the Rune Blades? What about like Dash? Like those things, what happens into those? How do you feel about like the middle matchups?
So I'm actually really comfortable in most of the middle matchups, just because I've played Azalea so long that when those were in the meta, I played against them a bunch. So most of the people who are playing them, I have more experience in the matchup. And most of those decks function kind of as mid-range decks. And Azalea is very good at mid-range. She just gets a lot of value in tempo. The things she struggles with are when she's forced to be the aggressive deck, which happens with Dromai and what used to happen with Prism, because you couldn't manage a board state.
Okay.
And the other is when she has to be... No, actually, same with Oldham. You have to be fully aggressive, because Oldham can just stop attacking you.
Sure.
Or, like, disrupt, and he can fatigue you. But even against decks that don't build a board state, like a Control Dash, I can push enough damage to kill Control Dash before I run out of cards. I don't think Control Dash can fatigue consistently. I don't think Bravo can fatigue consistently.
Interesting.
Like, it's really just Oldham, because he's able to block 4 without using a card.
And you're worried about fatigue with Oldham? Is that the thing?
Yeah.
Okay.
So, yeah, it was really just those two. I think everything else I can play a mid-range game plan into, and I can also play kind of an aggressive game plan where I need to. It's just the board state issues or full-on fatigue in the form of Oldham, because he can stop my dominates consistently.
Sure.
But yeah, everything else, like I've practiced a ton into them, and I'm not saying that they're like super favored, but I'm comfortable enough into them to say I probably am more experienced in the matchup, so I have an edge.
Yeah, I mean, I would say firsthand, like, no one has practiced Azalea as much as you, and no one has practiced against Azalea as much as you have practiced against other matchups. So, I mean, do you think that, has, it's almost like, I mean, I take it back to like Dromai, right? Like when Dromai first came out, you're playing Dromai at a competitive event. Like no one knew, even now, right? No one really knows like for 100% certainty what to do with some of the dragons that pop up. Like, when do I attack dragons?
Yeah.
When do I go face? Like, so that's like part of Dromai's advantage. Do you think that, you have a significant edge because, you know what? I mean, yes, you're fantastic at the deck, but like you get percentage points also because people have not played. I mean, we'll talk about matchups in a second here, but you said like Michael Fang, like one of the best players in the planet at Flesh and Blood. Like you said, he presented Stalagmite against you, which is obviously incorrect on Oldham. Like, do you think that you get an advantage of like with players not knowing how to play against Azalea?
100%. It's actually a pretty big advantage. I know even against a lot of the top players that I played against, I'd sit down and they'd go, okay, let me read your headpiece. Let me read your weapon. Let me read your hero. Let me read your gloves. They knew what Tunic did. And then they needed to read my boots. So they just read everything I presented. And whenever I played a card, they had to read it.
How was the top 8 going off that? I'm sorry to interrupt, but how was the top 8 when deck lists were presented? were there cell phones allowed, like looking up, or was the judge right next, like, hey, headshot does this, Bolden shot does this?
Technically, they can ask the judge for the text. Right. I said, just ask me. I'll tell you. I'm not going to. I'm not going to like lie about it.
Did you get a lot of questions?
Yeah.
That's so funny. Like, the announcers were like, what the hell is read the glide path? And I'm like, I know what read the glide path does. Ask me. I'll tweet.
Yeah, no. I think it was Noah. He asked like 6 or 7 cards while looking at deck lists. Like, okay, what's this card do? What's this card do? What's this card do? And then he goes, okay, how many 6 attack cards are in this list? I'm like, 0.
Yeah. Not running.
He's like, that's what I want to hear.
Not running battering shot or whatever the hell that's called.
Battering bolt.
There you go.
It came out.
Did you have it initially? I know you said you like untech'd for Dromai because you were trying to tech for other things.
Yeah, so I used to have it in the list, and then I said, this is only here for Dromai.
Yeah.
In every other matchup outside of Dorinthia, I would rather it just be a headshot.
Right.
So I replaced it with headshot and said, hopefully I can still beat Dorinthia, and hopefully I don't play against any Dromais.
And did you play another Dromai except for Noah?
Nope. Noah was the only Dromai near me.
Yeah.
Like, all the other Dromais were just getting run over by Fi. There was so many Fis.
Tales all this time.
Yeah. I mean, and that's what I was expecting, is I didn't think there'd be any Dromais at the top tables. So the goal was dodge them for the first couple rounds, and then I should be in the clear. But someone decided to do well and ruin that plan. Someone being Noah.
Classic.
Yeah. But, yeah, dodge Dromai. Oldham was hopefully I can catch him off guard. I guess we can get into that once if we want to go. Do we want to go through rounds in order, or do you want me to go into that Oldham?
Yeah, I would say I mean, talk about like if they were like, you can talk about what you beat and whatever. If it was a great game or a memorable game, like comment on that. Yeah. I mean, I'm interested to hear. I mean, you talked about how you beat Mike Fang, you beat Yuanji, and then you beat
Brody Spurlock.
Yeah, Brody. That was on screen. Yeah. And that game, I mean, and Brody's amazing, but like that game was just like insane.
Yeah,
like it was great. Like it was great as like a friend of yours and someone who has seen it firsthand. And I'm no disrespect to Brody because his accomplishments speak for themselves and he's amazing.
Yeah.
But seeing that on stream, I was like, this is sick. So like, yeah, I mean, you can talk about those 3 specifically because not singling them out, but they are like 3 of the, more notable players that, people know. But yeah, go down like your matchup list. If it was, just a typical game, you don't have to touch on it, but I'm interested in those 3 games specifically, and then we can get to the top cut.
Yeah, so I'll just go in order. First round I played against Fi, which is exactly what I wanted to find round 1. I don't think he was too experienced on Fi. I think he said he had like less than 10 games playing the deck, and I was running a little bit hot, and he just didn't get to play the game. That's kind of just how that went. Round 2 was another Fi, and he was a little more comfortable on it. It got pretty close actually. He caught me with, I think it was a Razor Reflex on a Phoenix Flame for a mask draw, as well as there was another one where it got super close. But once you get down to those like sub 10 health situations, as long as I don't let him get like a 4-card hand, I'm in a huge advantage because I block with 2 cards, send something that makes him block with 2 cards, then he plays 2 cards, I block with 2 cards, and like Azalea just wins those trades because when you're forcing Fi to block and play small hands, he can't match your damage.
I mean, yeah, the death dealer draw is like disgusting in that situation, right?
Yeah, being in the situation where both players are blocking with 2 cards and I'm playing 2-card hands is exactly where I want to be.
Yeah.
So once his armor's gone, it's kind of just the end of the game there. Outside of some cheeky stuff, which we saw that in the top 8 match against Fi, is once we both had to start blocking, that's when I took the advantage.
Yeah, that was that. I mean, we'll get to that, but that
that game was a disaster.
It was. I mean, I know you say that you misplayed several times. I'm not.
It was really bad.
I'm not savvy enough to Azalea to know like your pinpoint, but like there was a point where I was like, okay, he's dead. Like this sucks. He's dead. And then it got to like that weird, like almost like Kadachi lock, like where it's like, hang on, Fi's blocking. Levi's got him on the back foot, even with 10 health. It was like 10-3 at one point, I think. And it was like,
and then I came in 15 damage on 3 cards.
Yeah, and it was like, dude, Levi's got him here. Like he's got him on the back foot, even though you had like a 7 health deficit. I was like, dude, he's gonna win this game.
That was honestly like the exact 3-card combo that I needed for maximum damage.
Yeah, it's crazy.
That's exactly what I needed. I definitely lucked out there, although things had been going poorly for the entire start of the game.
Sure.
So it made up for it. But yeah, so round 2 is another Fi. Round 3, I see Brody. I'm like, sweet. One of the things I wanted to do when I went into the event is I said I wanted to do well enough early to where I got to play against a big name and put up at least a decent showing. Just to kind of have that. I wasn't expecting to win.
That feather in your cap.
I just want to play against a good player at a reasonable record while playing Azalea. That was kind of the goal. So then they call us. They go, "Oh, you guys are on stream."
This is on stream, by the way. Before he gets into this, like, go watch this back. I mean, I'm sure if you're watching this, you have seen it. But this game is fantastic. You should watch it. It's on stream. You can probably find it. Go ahead, Levi.
Outside of that judge call, that was so awkward.
Okay, so that was weird because, as a viewer perspective, before I get into yours, like it's so weird because it's not like you. I know you ended up saying like Brody was an amazing person behind it. He was great. So like watching it, like it's like. Is Brody rule sharking? Because the announcers knew what happened, and the viewer, I knew what happened, but like I didn't know if you called it on yourself. Was Brody rule sharking? Was like going on, and it took forever, and so it was like such a weird like situation. Even though everybody kind of understood what the situation was, it was weird.
I don't think the judges or the casters actually knew exactly what happened.
They got there eventually.
When listening back, it sounded like they thought I used the tunic to gain a resource and also pitched, which was not the case.
No.
What happened was I was playing through my turn, and then I played a Ravenous Rebel, and I went to represent the damage on it, and instead of grabbing a die from right next to my mat to represent 4, I accidentally grabbed my tunic die. So then I got to the end of the turn where I knew I had a tunic resource to grab my die, and there was nothing there. And I was like...
This is top player sharking here.
I'm like, I swear, it was on 3 counters. So, like, Brody was like, I mean, I believe you, and we took a look at the grave, and we're like, there was a die on there at the start of the turn. He remembered that for sure.
Yeah.
And I'm like, it was on 3. I planned out this entire turn based on it being on 3. And he's like, I don't remember exactly what the number was, but I believe you that it was 3. And then we kind of backtracked for a second, like, would your blocks have changed if you knew it was on 3? So we kind of backtracked. I'm like, if you need to change a block, like, you're welcome to do so. I really appreciate you being understanding. But when we talked to the judge, because Brody was like, yeah, I believe him that it was on 3, And the judge actually, or Brody said, I don't know what it was on, but I believe him. And the judge kind of took that as, yeah, it was on 3,
Cool.
As opposed to going, well, we don't know what it was at. Because we asked, can we check the stream? And they said, no, we're not allowed to check the stream on that. Which actually, I think they just didn't have the VOD up, so there was no way to actually check the stream immediately. Either way, it was kind of a scary situation for me. I was like, I screwed up. I don't know what I genuinely had no idea what I did, but all I know is the die wasn't there anymore.
You know, I mean, honestly, though, like, looking back on that, that's my favorite resolution of a kind of sketchy situation that, like, has happened, because it could have gone negative for you. You know what I mean? Like, like if Brody would have been not Brody, like, that could have been in a bad situation. So, like, that's how I prefer. Like, there's been situations in this game, you know, in tournaments where judges have handled it well, or judges have handled it, like, poorly or whatever. Or not poorly, I should say, but, like, where, you know, the public might disagree or the players might disagree. I'm glad it went this way. I'm glad Brody was, you know, as awesome as he could have been. And that's how things should be. If the players both agree, I'm glad that the judges had kind of like the wherewithal to be like, you know what, he agrees, you agree, this is how the game state's going to be. I'm glad it was resolved that way, and that there weren't any penalties, you know, handed out.
Yeah. But
don't do that again, idiot.
So I may or may not have messed up my Tunic in top 8 as well, which
I heard about this too. Yeah.
I was not happy hearing about that.
Yeah. What? That was weird.
I don't know. I grabbed a die and put it on the Tunic, and all of a sudden it was at 2. Luckily, my defense is I screwed up like 4 other lines during that game.
And it also didn't matter. It's not like you accelerated Tunic, right? Like, you waited another turn and before you activated.
So it does actually matter in that case, because I was threatening a Bolton shot reload with a Tunic resource at 3. So if the Tunic resource is at 2, he doesn't have to block the Bolton shot because it can't fire like a red in the ledger afterwards.
Sure.
So it does actually matter. I don't know.
You are the most integrity-ridden, fueled player that I've ever met. Things happen. Don't beat yourself up about that.
No promises on that.
I know who you are, but don't beat yourself up for it. But yeah, go ahead. Let's take it through. So the Brody game, back to it.
Yep. Round 4 was an Icelander. It was funny. I sat down. It was someone I'd met at the previous Battle Hardened Columbus.
Oh, nice.
Someone who had been following my Icelander content. So he was like, "Oh, sweet! I get to play against you. We get to play the mirror match."
Was he like, "What the hell happened, man? What are you doing?"
And then I'm like, "Yeah, I'm not playing Icelander."
He was betrayed.
Like, wait, what? Then I played Azalea. And I don't know. That matchup feels quite good.
Yeah.
It actually did get a little bit close at one point, like close, because he was setting up for the combo. But I was at like 25, and he was getting low, and he wasn't able to hold enough cards to combo. And then I just kept pressuring, and he couldn't hold enough cards, and made him burn his Striders to stay alive. And then I was on 18 and just cruised through.
All right, so it's obvious to me why the Phi matchup seems good for you. This is important for Worlds content, I suppose. Yep. Why does the Icelander matchup seem good for you?
I have no idea.
Okay.
On paper, the matchup should be absolutely miserable.
That's what in my little dinosaur brain, I'm thinking it's bad for you.
I have no idea. But then I jammed games on Talishar, and I went like 19-2 into Icelander.
Like, what do the on-hits do to them?
Nothing. The only on-hit is Seek and Destroy.
Is it just consistent, damage where you can... Is it the draw?
The dominated damage?
Is it
I think it's the draw helps replace my hand.
Yeah, I was going to say.
So I can play through a little bit better. Also, Dominate. Icelander does not like Dominate.
Okay.
Because she wants to block with multiple cards in that style of matchup.
Yeah.
Seek and Destroy, again, is a problem.
For sure.
The other thing is her, like, 1 resource tax turns. I bump up my blues. I was playing a lot of blues, 9.
So many.
I know, so many blues. But if I draw a blue, one Frostbite does nothing, because my turn always costs 2.
And you're
so I just have
drawing.
a resource.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I'm drawing, so I get to do all that stuff. Channel Lake Frigid is the biggest problem,
Okay.
obviously. But what I do under Channel Lake Frigid is I just Arsenal an arrow, and then fire for 5 every turn until the Channel Lake Frigid is gone.
Yeah.
And that's still demanding cards from their hand.
It's a lot for her, yeah.
So yeah, I understand that Seek and Destroy is like the most powerful tool in that matchup. Like, she wants an Arsenal.
Yeah, I mean, that's the most powerful tool in a lot of matchups, right?
Into Oldhim.
That card's pretty nasty.
It is, but it's particularly strong in Oldhim and Icelander.
Sure. It's like generically okay, but then insane in what it needs to be.
But yeah, like something like a Dominated Arrow into with Seek and Destroy, it tells you that you have to play out your entire hand. Icelander does not play out her entire hand.
No, yeah.
So I think it puts her in awkward situations, but that's kind of the best conclusion I can come to. Because on paper, she struggles with ice. Like, she's very tight on pitch, so you should struggle, but I don't know. It's felt good.
What do you think the matchup lies? Like 75-25, 50-50?
I mean, it honestly felt like 75-25, maybe better.
Wow.
But the other thing that kind of set that in stone in my mind is when I was playing Icelander, when I would queue into Azaleas on Talishar, I was struggling. I was like, this should be good, but I'm having a hard time here. Like, these matchups feel harder than average. And I think I still only had like a 50% win rate into Azalea on Talishar playing Icelander.
Is that pure Icelander, or have you tested against the Hamilton list? Is it the same? Is it better? Is it worse?
I have not tested against the Hamilton list, but I feel like giving me the option of blocking 3 instead of 1 with my spare red arrows should be pretty good.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm not 100% sure, but... and the other thing, actually, I guess, is I'm playing fatigue shots and hamstring shots into Icelander, which are very annoying if they try and play the attack actions. If they're not, they're still arrows, but... So, I don't know. I don't understand why, but the matchup feels good. And
it's awesome.
I haven't come across something to say that it's otherwise.
Cool.
But yeah, I played the Icelander there. Game went well. Although he was playing in case, and that is terrifying for Azalea.
Oh, geez, yeah.
I only bring AB2. So if he does that, it's like I can't Azalea, I can't cross wrap, I can't use my tunic. I can still Death Dealer, but if I have something weird in my arsenal, all of a sudden my turn gets awkward under Encase.
Yeah, right.
But very few people are playing Encase right now, so I'm not too worried about it. Don't put Encase in your sideboard, please.
And then you got Fang.
Yeah. Michael Fang. We sat down, sideboarded, and then we got deck checked. And so they took like 10 minutes on, or no, we probably took a little bit on presenting. We ended up getting a 12-minute time extension, but there was the deck check, and he goes, I hope I don't regret the decision.
The judge that was deck checking you was like, are you sure you're playing Azalea?
Right?
I thought this was Icelander.
No, Michael goes, I hope I don't regret this decision, when he's like debating between shields, and then he puts up the Stalagmite. I'm like, okay, I can make this work.
What was your thought there? Like, when you see that, like, you know, instant game plan, like what's your thought when you see Stalagmite instead of Ram's Head?
When I see Stalagmite, that tells me he's actually playing Flesh and Blood and not playing Brick Wall Simulator, which is what I want to do. I want to play Flesh and Blood. When Oldhim just plays Brick Wall Simulator, it's not a game. He just block as high of a number as I can, and if I have a spare card, I'll hammer. That's when they do that, it's really, really difficult for me.
Sure.
But yeah, so he puts up the Stalagmite, and I'm like, okay, which means he's not planning on using Crown to block very often. He's not planning, because he can't Rampart with it, so my Dominate actually pushes damage. I do have to play around the Stalagmite, obviously making sure that I don't get blown out by a Frostbite on a wider turn, but it's like, okay, he's actually going to attack me, and like, he'll take some damage to swing back, and that's what I want. Yeah, so I was telling Sam, as we got later in that game, I was like, okay, I'm in a winning position, I got this. I'm on 10, he's on like 2, and he just swings hammer at me, and I've got a 4-card hand. I've got 2 Knock the Death Whistles, a blue Bolton Shot, and a yellow Read the Glide Path. And I'm like, okay, great. So let me plan out my turn. I pitched the blue to load an arrow, and then I glide path to opt, and then I played the knock the death whistle, and then I put an arrow on top, come in for like 8 dominate or 7 dominate, depending on headshot or remorseless. Perfect. That closes the game out, which means I needed a blue, a knock, and a Bolton shot, but somehow I failed at counting and blocked with a knock, going, oh, I've got a blue, I've got a knock, and I've got an arrow. But I double counted. So I blocked with the knock, and all of a sudden, that 8 dominate when he's on 2 turned into a blue Bolton shot for 4. And I'm like, this is not good. And I would have been very upset if I threw off that. I mean, regardless of the outcome, it was a throw, but I did end up still winning. It was a turn or two later, I was able to come in with a 8 dominated remorseless.
Nice.
But yeah, it was not my proudest mathing moment. But
how was was he like, dude, what the hell? Like, how did he act after the game? I've interacted with Michael a little bit on the Discord, and he's a great dude.
Oh yeah, for sure. No, we had a good conversation during the deck check and just talked after, and yeah, he mentioned he thinks he still could have fatigued me, but obviously having the stalagmite makes it a lot more difficult to fatigue.
For sure.
Yeah,
I'm interested to hear that.
Yeah, but I mean, I think if we sit back down and play it again, I think he beats me 9 times out of 10.
With Stalagmite or with Ram's Head?
Oh, no. With his same deck list, he just brings Ram's Head, and he beats me 9 times out of 10.
Oh, yeah, okay.
So that was a one-time thing of he didn't realize. But, I only need the first one.
You're a hero. That's it. So, 1 out of 10 makes you a hero.
Yeah. So I was pretty happy with that. Like, I had beaten Brody, and I beat Michael Fang, and it's like, okay, I'm now 5-0, and I need one more win. I have 3 win-ins.
Azalea chat is building the statue of you.
Right? Yeah. It was like, okay, all right. And then all of a sudden, like, back of my mind after that game, I go, I'm just going to hit a bunch of Oldhams.
Now you're on stream against...
Yeah, I'm like, this is what happened at Charlotte. I was 9-1 and lost 2 consecutive win-ins. I'm like, oh, I'm going to break my record for most win-ins lost in a row. I was like, yeah, I was getting very anxious about it.
You face a brick wall.
Yeah. I don't think I played the cleanest that game.
Sure.
But I know listening to commentators and reading like comments and stuff, there's a lot of people who are like, oh, he's just firing damage and not doing anything. But the weird thing about that matchup is the way Oldhams are built right now is they can swing damage. If I just go, oh, I'm going to set up my pitch stack and just pass, he'll hit me with a Spinal Crush.
100%. Yeah, they're aggressive now.
Right? It's like I need to be firing 8 damage like every turn, at least, to make him throw cards in order to kind of protect my resources. And obviously along that whole time, I'm digging like read the glide path, Memorial Grounds knocks. I'm trying to find 8 to 12. Honestly, actually, 11's really the floor. That's what you want for dominate, but I mean, you'll take an 8 if you can. But all of my glide paths, except for like maybe 1, just missed on the arrow. And my deck was like 40% arrows, and it was just every time I played one, like, I need to dominate. Nope. Need to dominate. Nope. And I was like, it was frustrating, but honestly, that game got a lot closer than I think it should have.
For sure.
But yeah, overall, the cards have to line up in that matchup. Unless I'm missing something entirely, I haven't found a way to feel like I have a consistent edge.
The weird part, like watching it, I mean, I guess not weird, but it's kind of funny. So you had message saying, hey, I just beat Michael Fang on Oldham, and then you were on stream. So when I clicked in, you were against Michael, and I thought they were messing up his last name. So the more I was watching the game, you were like losing, and I'm like, oh, I know he wins this. It's fine. And so like I thought that the stream was delayed, and I'm like, yeah, he wins. It's fine. It's Fang. They just didn't get his last name right, and then you lose. I'm like, wait, this was the round? What the hell just happened? And so
my second Oldham.
Yeah, it was. I didn't realize you played back to back until it was too late, and then I was like, oh god.
Yeah, and so yeah, obviously I lost that, and it was funny because prior to the game, they came up and go, hey, we'd like to do an interview with the winner of this game. And then I lost. And then they came over and they go, hey, can we interview Levi still? And I was like, oh, yeah. So you're going to go like, hey, you just lost. How does that make you feel? I was like, really? But yeah, no, for sure. I'll sit down. Like, I'm not beat up about the game because obviously I knew I was the underdog going into that matchup, like a severe underdog in that matchup. So, and the other thing was that, like I mentioned, we got deck checked in round 5.
Yeah.
So all of the top Oldhams were there watching the game because we ran longer than everyone else.
Of course.
So everyone got to see. They got to see what cards I was running, what I was doing. And so I think that gave the rest of the Oldhams an advantage when they played against me because I didn't have quite as much of an element of surprise. As
you didn't run into another Oldham, though, did you?
Yep.
Oh, you
I
did?
5, 6, and 8.
5, 6, 8. So 7 was Yuanji.
Yep. So I was very happy with that game because
he was running Briar?
Yeah, he was on Briar.
Okay.
We sat down. I'm against Yuanji. He presents Briar. To my left is an Oldham mirror match. To my right is Dromai versus Oldham.
Oh my god.
I was like, yes. I dodged them.
That's
for
insane.
one more round. Like all I need to do is win this, and then I don't care who I pair against.
I mean, that's what you needed to do, though, right?
Yeah. I think the Yuanji game was another one where him either not understanding what my game plan was fully, or yeah. I mean, I've talked to them a little bit after, or he's mentioned it in Discords. He went into it with the incorrect game plan. He said, I think that they're going to be repeatedly dominating like Red in the Ledger and like looping it with Memorial Grounds. So he boarded in things like Runic Reclamation, Yellow Evergreens. So he goes, I'm going to be less susceptible to that. I'm going to have D-Reacts, 4-block blues, and I'll play like a mid-range game plan instead of trying to wombo combo. But then he was playing mid-range against me. And I was like, okay, I think I fired like one Red in the Ledger, non-dominated that game. I was like, he rabbled and revealed a Runic Reclamation, and I just go, okay, he doesn't want to be aggressive, and he was blocking a ton. I was like, okay, I'll play this game. And Briar actually is annoying when he's able to like block 8 with 2 cards, but it's still just the mid-range game plan Azalea is just too efficient, and I was just able to edge out the game. Like just turn over turn, I just had better turns. Was
it close?
I think I went down to like 8 to close out the game.
Okay.
But I also caught him on a weird like turn cycle where I just happened to fire 2 Remorseless in a row when he had a Sink Below in Arsenal that got locked down. So it just made things awkward because I think it was a Seek and Destroy Remorseless. So he ended up throwing his hand to protect the Sink Below.
Oh, jeez.
And I fired the next one. So, I mean, I think across the whole event, some things just lined up in my favor.
Which, I mean, if you're going to make that kind of...
have to, yeah.
Yeah, if you're going to make that type of run, it has to, right?
Yeah. But I did end up getting that, and I was like, okay, I got my winning in. I'm comfortable. And then after we finished up, obviously, quicker than the Oldhams and Dromai, and I'm looking around, and the top 6 tables were Oldham Dromai, Oldham, Oldham Phi, Oldham Viserai. And I was like, that's a lot of Oldhams. So I'm like, okay, I made top 8, and I'm losing top 8.
But then
there's so many Oldhams here.
All the Oldhams lost, right?
Yes, that's what I found out in round 8, that all of those Oldhams lost.
That's insane.
So all of a sudden, it went from that list there to Oldham Dromai, Azalea, Oldham, and then 5/5 Viserai all snuck in. And it was like, wow, that was not what I expected.
That's crazy.
Yeah. So I guess the round 8 really didn't matter. It was a win and in. I played against Ryan Rich. We had played at the last Columbus in top 4. And so we were just having fun. I mean, I didn't take the game seriously at all. On one hand, I was like, I already made it. I'm not going to melt my brain when he knows exactly what he has to do.
But you wanted to get that Ryan Rich notch on your belt. No,
not really. The other side of it was a little bit of a mind game of I knew he was almost guaranteed to win. If he was actually on his winning in, he was not locked. He would have gotten 9th or 10th had he
Oh,
lost.
really?
But which I think I didn't realize that until after. I assumed we were both locked. So going into it, I was like,
Did you
okay.
get paired down?
No, it was just there were some X2s who didn't make it. His first loss was round 1.
Oh, okay.
So I think he would have gotten 9th.
Oh, submarine. Good for him.
Either way, going into it, I was like, okay, 1, my head already hurts, and partly hurts and partly like I just made top 8 with Azalea, so I wasn't the most focused. I was like, okay, this is fine. And the other one was like, if I play him in top 8, I kind of wanted him to think that the matchup was more free than it actually was. Like, it is free, but I made it seem even more free than it actually was.
I see what you're saying. Okay, is this like hindsight talking, or is this like strategically going into it?
This was like, I'm not gonna show my hand and play cleanly. I'm just gonna play my game.
Okay.
I'll play out my cards as they fall, but I'm not gonna sweat and go, okay, I need to pitch stack these combination together and then all of a sudden like wrap around a second cycle and come in with like 14 dominates and almost kill him.
Good for you.
And then he goes, okay, next time we play, those are coming second cycle, and he has to be prepared for it. But I just fired cards as they came. Game wasn't close. I think he was on 7, which sounds close, but that's when I had no buffs left in my deck. So I literally can't do any damage if I don't have buffs, because 5 dominate doesn't do anything. So I'm having fun with it. I get an empty deck and then I have like a Remorseless in Arsenal, and I go Azalea, send it to the bottom, and then bring it back with dominate. So that's a little fun interaction. If you have nothing in deck and you Azalea an arrow, it just gains dominate.
That is a fun interaction.
It doesn't actually do anything in that case. But
I had no idea. Yeah.
I have had games come down to that against like a Dory or a Rhinar who are trying to fatigue me, where you're able to dominate your last arrow like that.
That's crazy. I had no idea that was a thing.
Yeah, but I was just having fun with it. I was like, it is what it is.
Yeah.
So obviously I ended up losing that game. But we were just joking the entire time and just chatting. Like, I didn't need to take it serious. Technically he did, but I don't think he needs to take it seriously to win that game.
Sure.
So yeah, we just had some fun with it. And then, so that was locked top 8. And then we went back to the hotel and got some food. And
that's right. It was the next game or next day.
I know, which actually was interesting because I talked with the people in top 8 afterwards, like later on the next day. And I had been streaming my testing of Azalea on my Twitch stream. I had posted
not this channel, by the way.
Yeah, I need to start streaming over here instead of getting my like 2 viewers over there.
Yeah.
Coming soon to a Roundtable of Wraith YouTube channel or something.
There we go.
Yeah, something like that. So I had like 15 hours of VODs of me just jamming Azalea into different matchups and talking through my lines. And then I'd posted my February deck link, which has all my stats on matchups. And what I hadn't realized, it's got card played stats. I found out afterwards that you can filter by cards played based on matchup. So some of the people I might have played against had gone and looked at my list, filtered by what they were playing to see exactly how I was sideboarding in the matchup.
Stop.
And so like they knew my sideboard plan going into it. And then they were able to test with that sideboard plan the matchup. And I was like, on one hand, like, good on you. That's smart. And it kind of puts me in a weird situation where...
Kind of feels scummy.
No, not at all. I don't think that's scummy at all. I think that's just being resourceful.
I mean, it is resourceful for sure. If you're playing in a top tier tournament like that, like
you
obviously,
do what you need to,
but like
to do it. But the thing, because I had posted it publicly, and
I guess that's true.
I mean, I wasn't. It's not like they snuck in and like I don't know, recorded it and got information they weren't supposed to have. Like I had posted that publicly because my goal was for people who wanted to play Azalea to have resources and have this information to try and help the community.
For sure.
And that's kind of always been my perspective when deck building and testing and playing is I want to share information because I want everyone to improve, and that's kind of just my mindset. And I realized a little bit, like, does that need to change if I want to do better in events? Because even like Battle Hardened Columbus, my deck list was public. I had posted it for weeks in advance. Charlotte, my list was public. I think for Columbus, my sideboard guide was public. Like, the only reason it wasn't public at Charlotte was I had worked on it with someone else who asked me not to post the sideboard guide.
Right.
I was like, that's fine. And that's just kind of always been my perspective going into events, is like, I want to help people learn and improve, and now all of a sudden I'm doing well at events, and it's like, wait, it's actually relevant. Because
it is.
If I'm going like 4-3 playing Azalea, no one actually cares what my list is in my sideboard.
For sure.
Like those players aren't figuring it out. Like, they don't look at their pairing and go, oh, I'm playing against Levi, let me go check the Azalea chat and see what his list is. And it's like
it's a different perspective. It's a different I don't want to say, like, I guess responsibility or like title. Like you're kind of in a different space than you anticipated being in.
Yeah. So I don't know if that's something I'm going to change in the future. It's something I don't want to change.
Depends how well you keep doing, I would say.
To an extent, but I'm not sure if I want to. I'm just not that competitive, and
Sounds
I
like we
don't
should
know
create
that
a
I want to. I don't want to be secretive on stuff. I want the community to grow. I want information to be shared, and that's just kind of always been my perspective. And I'm not sure that that's something I want to change just to try and make more money at events.
My head aligns with you. You're a much better player than I am, and obviously, but if I were at your level, if I, played more events and things like that, like, you can give your sideboard out, especially for Azalea. No one plays Azalea, right?
Yeah.
No one plays her like you. So, like, you giving out your sideboard is just, like, it's a service. But no one's going to be able to play her like you. You know why every card is there. Like, that's the hard part with this game, with deck teching and things like that. Like, you can give out your list, you can do this. The top players might know how to react, but, like, you're still playing the deck, and you're still, Levi.
Yeah. So I don't know. That's just been something that's kind of on my mind for the last little bit. Is that something I want to change, that I need to change, or that I want to change? And,
my head's with you. I think you're in the right headspace.
But yeah, so it turned out the 5 that I played in top 8 apparently had my VODs playing on the TV at the Airbnb the night before, just trying to figure out what Azalea does. And then, I think it was Brody's testing group that had checked all the February stats and jammed games to try and figure stuff out for him, because we were likely to play in top 4. But either way, getting into the actual top 8, we got up. Not to delve too much into non-tournament stuff, but the first night that we were in Columbus, through a series of events, I ended up sleeping most of the night on the floor with no blankets. With someone snoring very loudly.
Who'd you go with, by the way?
Sam and Marcus.
Okay.
Yeah. So I did not sleep well the first night, obviously. Second night, I slept better, but I don't know. I was still kind of beat from the day before. And so going into that top 8...
Yeah, vampire hours.
I was... the caffeine had not caught up to me yet.
No.
I think it did for the Dromai game, but that first one, I was nervous, obviously, because even though I say the 5 matchup is favored, sometimes you just miss a turn and they come in for 35.
And they do 5 shit, yeah.
Yeah, you do Ranger stuff, and then they do 5 stuff, and you die. Ranger stuff being drawing no arrows. Because that's the Ranger special when you need it.
Such as life.
So, like, I was pretty nervous about that game going into it. Like, I had also talked with people. Like, I wasn't hiding the fact. I knew that my VODs were public. I knew that my deck list was public. And I had people tell me, you should take those down or hide them, at least for tonight. And I don't know. I just said I'm not going to. If they want to respect me that much to go review, more power to them. I don't know. probably wasn't the smart move, but
I don't
I don't
know.
think it
Like,
ended up hurting me.
it's just so weird to me. Like, I don't know.
I don't think it is.
You still have to. It's not like scum. I guess I said scummy before, but like you still have to play the game. Like,
Yeah.
you know, like playing against you. Like I knew, you know, a year ago what all of Azalea's cards did. I had no idea until I started playing you. That didn't change the matchup. Like, it was still like you still have to play the matchup. Like, I know how you play. I know what the cards do. I know what you're trying to do. You still have to play the matchup. Like,
Yeah.
so like
But
what they're learning the cards. Like, what advantage are they gaining from? You know, I don't think taking them down would have done anything.
I mean, I think it would have made a difference. Or it would have given me a little more of an edge. But I don't know. I didn't want to.
I
So
don't.
I didn't. Regardless, top 8 game. I played terribly. It was, yeah. The casters played it down, or even made it sound like I
Or
was
they
making
didn't
big
know
screen
what
plays.
was going on.
That's the other thing. They probably didn't. But there's one turn where I had a Sleep Dart in Arsenal, a Memorial Ground in my hand, and a Seek and Destroy in my hand. I was like, okay. I opted, and it was a card I didn't want. I don't remember what it was. So I sent it to the bottom, and I was like, man, I don't want to pitch an entire card for this Sleep Dart, so I'm going to Memorial Ground a 0-cost card. I was like, oh, I'll put an E-Strike on top. That card's efficient. Then I Azalea, put the E-Strike in. E-Strike, draw a card. And I was like, wait a minute. Seek and Destroy is like a primary, or a good card I want to Arsenal. Also, Sleep Dart has a relevant hit text in the matchup. So if I just pitch the Memorial Ground and came in for 5, I threaten an on-hit, and I know what my Arsenal is, as opposed to no on-hit, no Arsenal. Or, sorry, blind Arsenal. So it's like, there's just no reason. Like, I just, in my head, it was more efficient for a second, and it wasn't. And then the big one that should have costed me the game later, I had something bad in the Arsenal. I Azalea'd in a Seek and Destroy, played it. Then my hand is Knock the Death Whistle and a Red in the Ledger. It's like, ooh, I'll play the Knock the Death Whistle, grab a Red in the Ledger, reload, dominate, Tunic, fire the Red in the Ledger. 8 dominate, Seek and Destroy, great. And I'm like going through the whole thing, and I go, and yeah, so it's just gonna be an 8 dominate, and he just goes, wait, how? I'm like, oh, you know, I put it on top and I reload, and here's my
Wait, I
like,
saw
how?
this.
And I was like, but he's like, but your Azalea is tapped. I was like, wait. I tried to use Azalea twice in the same turn.
I saw this, yeah.
And it was funny because, like, it could be construed that I was trying to cheat, but I turned my Azalea to show that it had already been used. Like, I wasn't trying to. I just
dumb.
forgot.
Yeah, it's being dumb.
It was just dumb. And if the card in my hand was not another arrow, I would have just thrown the game on the spot. I just lose. But I had another Red in the Ledger in hand, because why not? So what the correct line would have been is pitch the knock, load the Red in the Ledger, fire the Red in the Ledger, and I get an Arsenal, as opposed to using my knock to put a Red in the Ledger on top of my deck to draw for next turn. But the caster was like, oh yeah, no, he's lining it up, so the next turn he'll get to fire another Red in the Ledger. It was just bad. I should have lost that game.
But then you didn't.
Based on how I played.
You had,
and there was another one.
You had the lock, like I said.
There was another one I did, and I don't remember exactly what it was at this point, but I remember thinking about it at the time. I was like, okay, that's the 3rd time I've punted the game now. And the other thing is early on in the game, I could not draw my That All You Gots. That card is incredible in the matchup because I get to stop mask triggers and not lose a card.
That card in general is just so good.
Yeah, I just didn't draw them, and I was like, we got down to like both we were both at like 10 when I drew my first one, and it came in clutch because I was able to block and go to 3 using the That All You Got, and I drew the Bolt and Shot off the top. And so I'm sitting there with Tunic Resource, Rabble, Bolt and Shot in hand, and he's on 10. And I'm sure he's feeling comfortable. Like, he put me on a 3-card hand, and he's on 10. And I go Rabble, reveal a buff for 4.
Yeah, this turn was
another
insane.
Rabble, Tunic, load the Bolt and Shot, and whether or not I played the buff was going to depend on how he was blocking the Rabbles, but because he let the second one go through,
yeah,
it was like, okay, he wants to hold all the cards in his hand, so I'll just buff, and we'll make him block, because he was on 6, and I came in for 7. So I ended up getting 2 cards there, and that took the tempo.
Yeah, that was it. That turn was disrespectful. That was so sick.
Yeah, 3 card 15 is pretty good.
It's not. I mean, it's decent.
From what I hear.
Yeah, it's decent.
Yeah, but that was a series of I blocked with that all you got, and I was like, the best draw possible right now is a red Bolton shot, and I drew the red Bolton shot. I was like, wow, that's pretty good. And then I'm like, I got to play this Rebel, and I need to hit it red, because I mean, technically, if I didn't hit the red, I would fired first Rebel. It's like a blue or a yellow. Then I load the Bolton shot, then play the next Rebel to see if I can find a red on the second one. But I'm just not threatening as many cards. And then it was the buff, and it was like, wow, that's something playable that guarantees I get more cards out of his hand. But then I denied myself the arsenal by playing out my full hand to get his hand, and then I leave myself open to not drawing an arrow, which I didn't. So I don't know, or maybe at one of those points I did actually draw a no arrow hand, and I had to take aim something, opt, and found a remorseless. It might have been against Brody, but it was like, wow, that was almost very bad.
Hey, that worked out well.
Right? I was like, oh, what do you know? 8 dominate remorseless as opposed to passing. We take those.
So before we you make top 4. The top 8 is on stream. The top 4 is on stream. Top 4 on stream did not go well for you.
No.
What is your general game plan into Dromai? Like, I know you hate the matchup. Obviously, you said it's one of your worst, if not the worst. What are you trying to accomplish? Just high roll?
Yeah, the game plan is high roll aggro. You want to find early sleep darts, because obviously you deny Ash generation as well as go-agains, and then you want raw damage once they start getting their Ash, where the sleep dart doesn't matter quite as much, and then you want sleep darts and red in the ledgers once they once they do have dragons developed, to try and stop them from pushing as much damage. Unfortunately, I hit the raw damage pretty well. It was just as it got later, I wasn't able to threaten those on hits, and so I just started taking too much damage. And he will be back at some point. So I'll continue. Not finding the on hits at the end was rough. Welcome back. I continued a little bit while you were gone, but
I was hoping you were going to continue to talk. I had run to the fridge there.
Yeah, no worries. So it's really got to be a high roll game plan. The other thing about the matchup is, just because I can't manage dragons, I take out defense reactions, because defending is just inefficient. Defending extends the game, and they get more value out of the dragons the longer the game goes.
I think defense reactions against Dromai in general is just bad.
Yeah.
From my experience playing.
I take out those, and it's like, I put in my buffs, which then leads to less consistent hands.
Okay.
Because typically when you draw a bad hand, you want to be able to block. In this case, I can't, because I take out all my stuff that wants to block. So it's just kind of, I need to draw really well, and sometimes it lines up. You all of a sudden are coming in for like 11 dominated sleep dart or red in the ledger seek and destroy, and they get to attack with 1 dragon and then pass, lose their hand, lose their arsenal, and then you follow it up with other stuff. And all of a sudden, when they get at that position where they're like sub 10, you'll even just firing a tall arrow, they can only block with 3 cards oftentimes. Sometimes they need to hold 2 cards if they want to go wide. So once you put them in that position where they have to block and can't swing dragons, you kind of buy yourself time. But I was never actually able to put him in that position.
Yeah. I mean, it was a rough game. Like, looking from the outside, it was just like,
that early Vincerica was rough.
Yeah, I mean, that's got to be the worst card.
Yeah, it's annoying, because that's the other thing, is I don't have small attacks.
You can't not let that thing, or you can't let that thing sit around.
I had a blue Bolton shot. There was actually an argument to block that turn out and then just fire the blue Bolton shot, but it's like I took 9 to threaten like 5 back at him and clear it, instead of just blocking 9 and then shooting it at the dragon. But I think that's one that I might have had incorrect, but
I mean,
at the end of the day, I don't know how much it actually ends up mattering.
probably
But
didn't
anytime I'm
matter.
blocking the early Yender, I just never had a good opportunity to clear it.
Yeah,
Because
that's bad too for you.
when I have like an 8 damage attack, if I fired at Yender, it's leaving him with at least 2 to 3 extra cards in his hand, which that Yender is just getting replaced by a different dragon because he didn't have to block. So it's not actually doing anything. So yeah, it's just a rough matchup. And going into it, I had tested like battering bolts, yellow fighting spirits as poppers, and tested yellow ravenous rebels as ways of clearing dragons.
Oh,
And
spicy.
I mean, I think yellow rebel is good in that matchup.
I didn't even know
is-
that existed.
Yeah, no, it's very good into Dromai. The problem is it is awful into Oldhim, and I want to be able to present my entire stack of cards basically into Oldhim. So it's like, do I want have better odds into Oldhim or better odds into Dromai? So if I was to play the deck at like locals, I think there's an argument to put those cards back in. But going into this event, like I said, I was not expecting any Dromais to be at the top tables. So if I made it up there, if I made it past the Dromais, that was my shot at winning. I was expecting Oldhim's up there. I was expecting the Fives. I was expecting the Icelanders. So I'm putting the cards in my deck for those matchups and not for Dromai.
All right. So tourney report concluded. Third place. We'll give you third place.
Right.
Great showing. Your deck list is on Fab TCG. You apparently ran a 94 card Ultim list.
Right.
You had Crater Fist in your deck, which probably overperformed for you.
Oh yeah, blocks a lot more than normal Ranger equipment.
Yeah, right.
They did fix it finally.
Oh, they
Or
did.
they did fix it already. Yeah.
Okay, good. So you did.
I
you
did
know-
actually play Ranger cards.
You played Ranger cards. Okay, good. Good to hear. All right, so last parting thoughts here. Not like I said at the beginning, not hyperbolic. You most likely changed the world's meta in a way, right? Because I think people that were sleeping on or just not testing it's very similar to like Pro Tour 1 where Kano all of a sudden just came out of nowhere, right?
Yeah.
I'm not saying that I think that Azalea is going to win Worlds. I don't think it's going to happen. Yeah, but do you believe that you're showing here? Like, do you think that now Azalea is going to be a factor? Worlds is what, a week away?
Yeah, it's too close for too many people to pivot to it.
I don't think people are going to pivot, but do you think like people
People are
my
gonna
question
read
to
her
you.
cards,
My question.
very least.
My question to you. Do you think that there is a possibility that people have been sleeper testing Azalea for this event?
That they have been sleeper testing it.
Like, do you think do you think people are gonna show up with Azalea with the intent
No.
that okay, so that's a no.
No.
And now, do you think that people are going to adjust their deck? I mean, you just showed like you dodge the right matchups, you lean into aggro, you have a good shot, right? Azalea preys off of what we think is the top meta. Aside from Oldhim, right? Dromai probably not going to be there. So if you can figure out the Oldhim matchup or figure out a way to dodge it, right? You just said she's good against everything else. Like, do you think that she is I don't want to say threat, but do you think that she can have a showing at Worlds?
No.
Really?
I know that's not what people want to hear.
No, it's fine. It's fine. It's
Yeah.
honest. You would know better than anybody else.
When I say I feel good into these matchups, it's like I'm comfortable in matchups, and I think I'm like maybe 60-40 in a lot of these. Like, that is my good matchup. And that, again, I think that a lot of that comes down to difference in experience. I just booked stuff. I'm going to be going, and I'm going to be playing in the calling, and I'm not playing Azalea.
You're going to San Jose?
I'm playing. Yeah, I'm playing Icelander at the calling. It was kind of a
Good thing we did this Azalea video.
I know it like I don't know. It's not what people want to hear, but
No, it's honest. That's fair.
It's not the correct. It's not the correct pick.
Okay.
But going into the event, the point I wanted to prove was that while it may not be the best deck, it is not a complete. If I sit down against it, I got a free win. It's a buy, which is the perspective that a lot of people kind of have.
100%.
They go, "Oh,
yeah.
I sat down against Azalea, I got a buy," and that kind of frustrated me. So I was like, "I'll show you what a buy looks like," and then I ran some people over, and people now have to read what Azalea cards do, but it's still just a mid-tier deck at this point. Like, if you want to win an event, Azalea is not the pick. But if the point I wanted to prove was, if you want to play Azalea, you're not dooming yourself to just 0-4 or whatever, 0-4 drop.
Yeah.
Like, you can win games with the deck. The deck does have strong things that it does. It has some consistency issues. It has some bad matchups, but overall it functions, and its power level is a lot closer to all the other decks than people want to give it credit for. And I think I proved that. That was my goal.
I would definitely agree with that you proved that point.
Yeah. But no, the deck is, if you want to go win an event, Azalea is not the secret spice that no one knew about.
Damn.
It's still just not, it's not your best choice. Go play Oldham or Fi or Icelander or something.
Cool. All right, Levi. Thank you for the time. Thank you for the breakdown here and the insight. Again, I want to reiterate this. If you guys are looking for his deck tech, he has posted it, but the detailed deck tech will be available on the Spark of Genius YouTube page. Again, that video is going to be releasing soon. From a Roundtable of Wraith standpoint, we are going to, again, make the same promise. We're going to try to release more content. Dynasty's coming out, which means Jim's going to, get involved a little bit. He'll get excited for a couple of weeks. Hopefully we can get some streaming. I have also been playing a lot of Talishar. I don't know why I haven't streamed. Probably because I'm...
Oh, yeah, just turn it on. Turn on the stream.
I'm, not as good as Levi. I play like Dorinthia. I play axes and shit like that. I just play random decks. But so we're going to try to get some more videos or at least some more content. Not necessarily this stuff. But anyway, I digress. Levi, amazing showing. Congratulations on the top 4, the third place finish.
One more thing.
Oh, before I close up.
Yeah, before you close up, for the people who are still listening, there may or may not be something planned in the near future. It's not set in stone, but I've been talking with some people, and hopefully we should have something interesting coming. I'm not always the best at following through, so I'm not going to tell you exactly what it was, but keep your eyes open, hoping to collaborate with some people and put out something pretty exciting. So stay tuned and watch for the 3 weeks of no content and me not following through.
Extremely exciting. I have no idea what that means, but that's...
Yeah, I haven't even mentioned it to you. I'll tell you afterwards.
Yeah, that's exciting for me. But anyway, hey, again, thank you guys for dusting off the seat. Thank you guys for, wiping down the table. We appreciate it. I know we're inconsistent. We're trying to make it better, but we appreciate you guys sitting down. Hopefully you guys digested this. This is a brilliant man. So thank you guys for sticking along. And on behalf of Levi and all the other idiots that have contributed to this channel, this has been Ryan with the Roundtable of Wraith. And until the next time, we'll see you guys later.